Martin Wilsey.
Hey, I'm Shay McGalley.
And I'm David Keener.
And this is the Hourlings podcast project. Tonight, Shay's going to be driving the bus. Shay, take it away.
All right, you guys. I don't know if I got elected for driving the bus tonight because I'm the YA author, and YA is known for angst and darkness, but I did, and I'm going to take the baton with pride because our topic tonight is what we hate about writing. And, you know, all of us here, this is a passion. This is one of our dreams, you know, to be an author. But I really think that you don't really love writing unless at least once you said, I hate writing, because it can be very frustrating. And there are a lot of things that can deter you from enjoying writing. Hopefully we can talk about some workarounds to those things in this episode too. But for now, let's just get all of our grievances out. Let's just lay it all out there. What do you guys hate about writing?
Who's going first?
Anybody? You want Marty? You go first. Come on.
Yeah, Marty's going first.
All right. The thing that I hate most about writing, the thing that I consider the biggest pain in my ass and the most stress, and it drives me crazy, and it is the least amount of fun, is the last 3% before publication.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that those final polish edits that you're doing, and
Yeah.
you're going through and you've read the fucking thing already like 25 times, and every time you go through you find another metric ton of things that need to be fixed, and then there's that one huge plot hole that you gotta, fix with cement, and you get beta feedback back, and suddenly everybody points to one character flaw that is incongruous or is stupid, and the last 3% before you send it off to your professional editor, that's the part I hate the worst. That's the most work for me, that's the least amount of fun, and it's the thing that I hate the most because I get so sick of it. And whereas writing the first draft, plowing through that, I love that. Every day I'm like, thinking about it. I'm out of bed. I bounce out of bed and I love the writing and stuff like that. Last 3%. Fuck, I hate that. Look at, I'm cursing. That's how much I hate it.
If Marty gets to say fuck, I get to say fuck.
So it's, I look at it like I refinish my basement. The hardest part of doing an entire basement is the last 3%. That finish work, the little trim, fixing all those little paint mistakes, and then finding, the switch doesn't work. The final 3% of getting it before you press publish. That's the part I hate. Sorry, I'm kind of ranting. The topic. I'm getting close. I'm getting close to that with my current novel, and it's gonna bug me. So
your angst is felt and validated and shared. Dave, what do you think? What do you hate about writing?
Well, first of all, I'm going to control myself, and I'm not going to say the word fuck.
Oh, fuck.
All right. So I guess let me explain a little bit about my process first, and then I'll tell you where my angst usually comes in. Right. I like to plot my story, meaning I outlined it in advance, but I like to pants my scenes. What that allows me to do is it lets me write my story and kind of know where I'm going. But I discover things about my story as I'm writing the scenes. And sometimes things kind of develop that I didn't expect, and I'll just run with it. So for instance, a minor character might turn out to have a more major role, and I start to incorporate that into the outline. And I don't care if it doesn't match the chapters before, because future Dave will fix that problem. But when it comes time for future Dave to fix that problem, future Dave has a little bit of angst about it, because invariably I've got a story that mostly works but kind of doesn't, and that the pieces don't necessarily match, and I have to fix the things that don't match. And sometimes that means I have to change how characters work in the story. I might have to replot a piece. I might have to add a whole new action scene. One time I think I had to add 5 more chapters to the front of a story that I wasn't planning on writing. And sometimes it's just like, it's like you've sculpted this thing and it's almost Michelangelo's David, but you've got to like find the shape and get it to finally work. It's not the final polish that Marty was talking about, but it's the final, I got to get the shape right or the story isn't going to work. And that part, sometimes it's like a slugfest, like, you know, like Rocky versus Apollo Creed or something. It's a relief when it's done, though.
Yeah, that part can really drive you crazy. Validated, heard, and shared.
But here's the thing, though,
Yeah.
and I will say, I like the fact that it allows me to have a lot of discovery in my story, and so the pain is still worth it for the final result. But it's still a pain in the ass.
You cursed again. Man, this is the episode, man.
Yes, but I didn't say the word fuck, so I'm good.
This is our M-rated episode for mature players only. What I hate about writing. So I'm going to take it into the traditional route a little bit with what I hate so much about writing. I hate the performance pressure of publishing. The fact that, you know, you have to sell books in order to keep the interest of publishers, or to keep to have your career and your title be validated in a sense, and you have to move books through bookstores. And you know, sometimes that happens naturally and it just clicks, and other times people really work for it, and other times people do everything right and it still doesn't work out. I don't like that money is the driving factor of that. Sales is the driving factor of that. But I understand it's a reality. I also hate the letdown of going on sub, as they call it, and getting your manuscript out to editors. And you're so hopeful at first because you have this big list of all these big names at big publisher houses. And you think, oh, this guy would love it. Oh, that guy would love it. Oh, this guy would love it even more. And then the weeks go by, and if you don't hear back, or you hear, you know, well, it's not for me, or, you know, it's got promised, but, you know, at this time, whatever. And so I've been in the position where you slowly see the list get smaller and smaller and smaller of editors that are still considering, or, you know, and so that part can be very troubling too. So for me, I guess it's more about the external, not the process, not my own feelings about it, but the external pressures of publishing are very hateable, I must say. I understand them, I respect them, but I don't like them. So that's mine. You guys relate, or feel, at least? I know you don't relate because you're self-pub, but you feel?
Oh, we're indie published, but we, you know, we
Yeah,
still,
you know, if you put it that way, I would totally hate that too.
Yeah.
In fact, I hate that so much, I'm not playing that game.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
You know, gatekeepers are the primary reason why I indie publish everything.
Yeah, that's fair. So my next question is, you hear all these horror stories of writers who say that they got so frustrated at one point that they threw their whole manuscript in the trash, or they, you know, they even maybe they didn't throw it in the trash entirely, but they at least held it over the precipice and thought about letting go. So my question is, have you guys ever been that frustrated with a project that you either walked away for a very long time, or gave up, or just totally scrapped it?
I'll take that one.
I have scrapped
Okay.
some stories.
But because you hated it so much, or because you hated something going on?
No, because it just wasn't working out the way I wanted it to.
Okay.
And I will only do that if it's early enough in the process that I can abandon something and it's only been 6 pages and,
Okay.
you know, no fuss, no muss.
Yeah.
So, but that typically really doesn't happen too much.
No rage quitting from Marty here.
No.
Okay.
I
Dave,
don't-
ever rage quit a story?
I don't rage quit, but there are times, you know, for instance, there's a couple stories I started much earlier in my writing, and I still believe in those stories, and I intend to come back to them and rewrite them and finish them, because they're part of the tapestry I'm building. But they didn't work, and I wasn't quite a good enough writer to pull them off, is what it amounted to from my perspective. That's not true now. I'm looking at what I did wrong on those, and I know how to fix them. It's just, you then get down to, I have, 20, I've got maybe 20 projects that are actually plotted out, some of which I started writing on, and I don't have time for all of them at once. So I've got to prioritize which ones I work on. But I have projects that I will get back to, or they might feed into something else, or I have awesome scenes that I've cut from something that are good, they just didn't belong in the story, and I might reuse them somewhere else. So I don't rage quit, but I am strategic about, I may switch projects.
That's a fair answer. And I think that that's a skill to be able to pivot that way and to be able to disperse your energy and attention to where it's best suited for the time. You can do better work on one project than another one, then do it. I don't think I've ever rage quit either. I don't think I've ever literally thrown something away or deleted something by accident, maybe, which is the worst. But no, I've never been that frustrated or hated some part of writing that much. But I have heard horror stories. I don't know, maybe we're the lucky ones, or I don't know.
I think where you see that more often is where you get some of the perfectionists that
Yeah.
they just expect their first draft to be, the great American novel, or just pure perfection to the ear, and it just doesn't work that way. And sometimes you're too close to what you've written to really evaluate it properly anyway.
Now, I have never been angry and screamed at one of my, my pieces of writing, but computers.
Yes.
Ooh.
Oh man, I had a really bad hard drive failure one time, and you talk about wanting to throw something across the room. I had to, primal scream and just leave my office.
How much did you lose?
Well, in the end, I didn't lose anything except time.
Okay.
But man, what a hassle. And then getting another computer, and then I had to reinstall every piece of software that I like to use, and it's onerous. What a hassle it is.
I would say maybe 4 or 5 times in my career, especially early when I was still typing on like a boxy desktop, and the autosave wasn't as good back then. I've lost like whole chapters of books that I wrote, and like you're so depressed, like even though you remember what happened and you could write it again, you just don't want to. You're like, no. And then you start typing it again, and the sentence is not exactly as you remember typing it before, and you're like, no, everything has to be exactly the same. It is the worst feeling.
That wouldn't happen to me, because after I've written a chapter, at least for the next week or so, I can write the entire chapter from memory, almost exactly the same.
Oh, that's a superpower, one that I clearly don't have. I've gotten close.
It's a short-term memory thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten close in the sense that I can certainly get the beats. I can certainly get, the actual gold of what needed to happen. But, the style and the flow and the exact wordage, I don't always replicate. And so that always used to really, really make me angry. That's what I hated about writing back in those days. It hasn't happened to me in a while. Just getting better at saving, and autosave has gotten better, but it can still happen. So.
Well, autosave, that's pissed me off lately.
Yeah.
Because Microsoft Word will not autosave unless you use Microsoft's OneDrive on the cloud.
That's right.
And that is very problematic if I take my laptop and go somewhere where there's no internet, which I love doing on writers' retreats. And
that's also problematic if you're like me and I don't really want all my stuff up on a shared, the cloud. Just don't want it for privacy reasons.
Right. So I am, after this project's over, I am probably going to go back to Microsoft Office 2016 because I still have the original media. I'll install it locally on my computers and run from that. Grammarly, you can still have as a plugin there. Pro Writing Aid, you can still plug into that software, but I don't think I'm going to renew my Office 365 unless they fix this issue.
They're blackmailing their autosave with the cloud.
If I can't autosave locally, or if it demands that I log in into the cloud in order to use the software, I'm out.
I made a really bad mistake too that like I'm gonna have to pay for later, because one of these instances where I lost a chapter, I was so angry that I just like was like, I'm just gonna keep writing, and I'll write the chapter, you know, when I finish it or whatever. Well, now I did, and I don't know what was supposed to go, you know, in between the two chapters. So I have a whole book. I have like, you know, all the chapters saved in a Word folder, and then just one, it skips, you know, there's one missing where I'm supposed to write it. So we'll have an episode about the me pulling my hair out over that one sometime. Go ahead.
Of course, I write in Scrivener, which does auto save automatically.
Yeah, I know.
And doesn't care where you save it.
Yes, Scrivener is my tool of choice for my first drafts, and that's what I use during my writers retreats now.
Yeah.
I plan it that way from now on. I can't do that. The thing is that
I usually
using
use
Microsoft Word is the tool of choice for editors, for instance.
Yeah, I usually use it for like my first and second draft. But once I'm going out to betas and stuff, I'm in Word and I'm heading towards the final version, and then everything else gets done in Word.
Yep.
So what do you guys hate about writing that if somebody had a very, very tiny violin, they would play it as you said it because it was so silly? I mean, everything else you've said has been very empathetic so far, but you know, what's that thing that you hate so much that with a tiny violin for?
All right, I have this problem. This is confession. I have to maintain spreadsheets of names that I use. I have this giant spreadsheet that says the character's first name and last name and the story or book that they're mentioned in, and character description. Because if I don't do it, I'll use the same name over and over. I have this gravity that pulls me towards character names that I don't know why, but I end up using the same.
What's your center of gravity for a character name that you always go to?
You know, early on, you know, the character names that I would use are, I would like end up using names of people that I knew.
Yeah.
And forget that I used that name already somewhere else. And
I've used a lot of Marcus's.
And I'm not telling what name, but there's a few that I didn't catch.
All right, Dave, I'm playing my tiny violin. What's
tiny violin? I don't know. It's not really writing per se. Covers are the bane of my existence.
Ah.
Okay.
Finding the right cover for my stories, and you know, not spending too much money, but getting a cover that's accurate for the story. You know, that's the bane of my existence.
Okay. That's more empathetic.
Yeah, I can see that because covers are really.
One time I tried to commission a cover. It's important. The one time I tried to commission a custom cover, the artist bailed on me, caused me endless problems. So it's to the point now where if I produce an anthology, I won't actually produce an anthology unless I have the cover in advance. That's my new rule from now on. And even for some of my stories, it's like I find myself buying covers for stories I intend to write. And by doing so, I can make sure the stories match the covers because I already have it.
Yeah, I always tend to acquire covers after I have the full verbose outline finished.
Well, my tiny violin is very simple. Too many ideas, too little time. If I could just freeze the progression of time and just type like a monkey at my keyboard.
Yeah, I have never understood people who said, "Well, I'm just looking for the right idea." It's like, well, dude,
No.
there's an idea right now. They're all over.
I know. I take notes all the time, and I file them, I categorize them, and oh man, I'm like on my third 3-inch binder of ideas. It's like I'll never have time to what's left of my lifetime. I won't have time to write about all the ideas that I've compiled.
Yep.
I have a private WordPress site. It's not on the web. It's available only to me, and I use this sort of like a control panel. It's got links to all my sites.
Nice.
It's got links to all my resources. It's got blog entries for the ideas that I have and stuff.
I email myself and then they get lost in my
So
inbox.
it's even better than Notebook.
See, that's a really important point right there, Shay. An idea that you have, if it's not maintained in some kind of order
Mm-hmm.
and is lost, you might as well never had that
Yeah, right.
It's a soap bubble. If you don't track it, it's gone.
idea. Yeah. And you've only got a finite amount of time to track it. And you got to be careful, because that is a dilemma that a lot of authors that I know suffer. They can't focus on a single project long enough because they're like dogs chasing butterflies. And
Are you talking to me again?
and they come up with another great idea before they finish working on the previous great idea, and thus self-sabotage and never get anything done.
Tragedy.
Well, I treated every story that I do as a pilot for a series of stories.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
That's
maybe you
also-
ought to reconsider that.
The
Write a
problem
damn
is-
novel, Dave.
the problem is, right now I have like 12 or more series, all of which have a #1 but not a #2.
So my last question for you guys is, which pretend that you're giving advice to young Marty, young Dave, or maybe even older Marty and older Dave in the future as you encounter these things that you hate again. What do you say to someone who says, man, I hate fill in the blank with what you just said you hate? What's your advice?
Well, for me, if I had a time machine, I could go back to young Marty. I would have young Marty start earlier.
Yeah, that was the same thing that ran through my mind.
It's I am very jealous, Shay, that you have gotten serious about writing at a young age.
Thank you.
I being 55 when my first novel was released was great, but it would have been a lot greater had it been 35. But that long ago, there wasn't KDP, there wasn't
Right.
Create Space. So
I think you're killing it.
And there were fewer markets to publish in.
yes, and I swear that when I was 35, unless you were at a college in a writing class, there was no such thing as writers groups. So, but I wish I'd have started earlier. Even if there was not a
Sure.
way to publish them, write them.
Yep.
Submit collect rejection letters and wait for the day that Create Space becomes available. So
Thanks for that. Dave, what's your advice when
Honestly, I have to kind of reiterate what Marty said. For me, I wanted to be a writer for a long time, and I never really had any doubt that I could, I don't want to say master the craft, because I don't think anybody ever really masters it. But I had confidence in my writing, but I kept looking at the writing industry as a business, and I couldn't figure out how people made money, because everything was set up so that the money got diverted to other people, and all those people were gatekeepers to who you had to please in order to get past them, in order to have any opportunity of making money. And I just didn't see, like, seriously, your advice is write a novel and shop it around for 10 fucking years until success finds you? Like, what the hell kind of business model is that? Right? So I just didn't understand any way that you could literally transition from non-writer to writer, no matter how hard you worked. And I didn't feel like I had a writing, had any sort of support system. I knew a few other people who were science fiction fans, but not like me. I wasn't really involved in fandom, so I didn't really, in science, in SF fandom, so I didn't really have a support system. And as far as writing groups, I didn't know any other writers. I certainly didn't know any writers at my comparable level that I could team up with and we could meet. I mean, I admire the stick-to-itiveness of other people who started earlier. I just don't know how I would have done it. And so my advice to my younger self would be, get your ass in gear and write some stuff. Like Marty said. I started a little bit younger, I guess, than he did, but not much. But I can't have, the odds of me having a 30 or 40-year career as a science fiction writer are kind of small unless I live a good long time.
It's fair. Yeah, it's a good things to think about for people or listeners out there who are thinking, oh, do I want to write a book? Do I want to put some time aside and make it real, or maybe this is their wake up call. So that's good advice from both of you guys. The thing I would say to someone who says I hate writing because of maybe the example I gave about the performance pressure or sales, I would say to let writing be a companion to your evolution as a person, rather than something that you clasp onto and get stuck on. Don't completely live over your first book again and again and again, trying to get it published, reliving the rejections, feeling like you're stuck on it and you have to perfect it. Allow yourself to grow and keep having experiences. That experiences help you become a better writer. So be open to other experiences, even if they're not the success that you're looking for right now in writing. If you continue to be open to experiences, you're going to become a better writer naturally. And I think it will just help each other. So that's the best I can think of. Imperfect advice, but for those who are relating to my hatred of the game, we'll call it, that's my advice. Anyway, so we hate writing, but we love writing. So we hope that venting with us has helped you, listeners out there, and stick to the positives. It's going to work out. You're going to be a great writer if you do what, Marty?
Finish things.
Finish it. Yeah, there you go. So there you go. It's been a good talk though. Thanks, guys.
All right. So that's it for this week. And we'll see you all next time. Thanks for stopping in.